I always knew there was something different, but I never really noticed what it was until I was about 14, 15. I started to notice when I was in high school. It was really hard, and I remember thinking what my friends, my family are gonna think. Am I gonna be disowned? Am I going to end up on the streets? And I started to hate myself, and instead of showing that I was hating myself, I become a very angry individual. I was very homophobic. I would say, like, look at those faggots, or I'd just pick on gay people in general. It was kind of conceal my own sexuality in a way. It was hurting me inside. When I was going through it in my head, I was digging myself into a deeper hole where I'd hate every minute of my life. And I tried changing. I tried really hard. My mother has always said that if her sons were gay, she wouldn't care, but it was not really helping still. My father, I never really knew how he would react, and I guess that didn't help as well. I grew up in a Catholic family. My great-grandmother is extremely religious. She doesn't go to church, but she's still heavily religious. My nan, she's religious, but not to the extent of my great-grandmother. I think knowing that she didn't support it, and she didn't really support my uncle when she found out about him, kind of made it harder. My friends in high school used to make little remarks, and they used to throw around the word faggot and poofter quite a bit, and even though I still did it, it kind of hurt a lot still. It was more about my hair because it's so bloody red. But growing up in country Australia, more so Victoria, in the Latrobe Valley, there's not much help for LGBTI youth. So when I was trying to discover who I was, there was nothing. I couldn't find anything. And that led me into a slow but steep depression. To the point where one day I was walking home from school, and at that point I knew 100% that I was gay, but I also knew I couldn't change it, so I wanted to get rid of it, make the gay go away. So walking home from school that day, I was retracing everything that has happened in my life, and if I was to live on, what would happen, or what would happen if I was to end it. I'm happy to say that was the one and only time that I tried. But there was always thoughts in the back of my head to do it. That was around 15, 16, I can't remember roughly when it was. When I got to my 17th, or when I turned 17, I ended up getting kicked out of home. I had a disagreement with my father, obviously moved in with my uncle. When I turned 17, I started to realise that I'm not going to change, and I might as well start to embrace it. So I started watching the It Gets Better videos and the coming out stories on YouTube. Then come my 18th, that stage I'd done stuff with guys, and I knew that was where I was at, that was where I was meant to be. But I still thought in the back of my head that it was wrong, but I was accepting of myself, and it was starting to get better. Then came the last few months of my 18, year 18, and I knew that it was coming. It was going to happen. It was going to come out, and it was inevitable. As of the 11th of the 10th 11, I inboxed my friend Jess and said, I can't remember, something along the lines of, would you still be my friend no matter what? And she replied, I think yes. So then I proceeded to say to her that, well, I think I'm gay, which I am gay, so, and she goes, that's fine, I love you. We knew for a while, we being her now fiance, Hixie, who was my best friend and co-worker when I worked at McDonald's. And I do have to say that Jess and Hixie did help me through one of the toughest times of my life, and I don't think I could ever repay them for what they've done. They're always there. They helped a great deal. I then proceeded to message people on Facebook and say that I'm gay, and with all the people I told, there was not a negative thing. And then I still hadn't told my parents or any family members at that stage. What happened was I went with a friend to McDonald's and met up with a whole heap of other friends there. And we were sitting, and I'd commented on something on Gippsland Gays, and at that stage I didn't know the page was public. I didn't know it wasn't closed. And I got an inbox from my mother saying, hey Bren, can I ask you something? And I said yeah. At that stage Hixie was standing near me, so he was like, Mum's gonna ask me something, I don't know what it is. And then she proceeded to say, this post popped up on Facebook from Gippsland Gays. Are you gay or bisexual? And I wasn't ready to tell her, and I wanted to tell her myself, but I guess that's how it played out. And I hadn't messaged her back in a few minutes, so she messaged my friend Hixie because she knew I was with him, and asked, is he alright? And Hixie replied to her, yeah, he's a bit shocked, but he seems to be alright. I then messaged her back and said, I'm gay. And then she goes, that's okay, I love you still no matter what. Which I think helped me a lot. I knew that she'd tell family, and I wasn't sure how they were going to take it. The one person I couldn't tell, but I wanted to tell, was my great-grandmother. My mum told my nan, which I hadn't known about yet. And she said to my mum, "Oh, maybe he'll change." But I think she's noticed that I haven't, and I won't. This is who I am and who I'm going to be. Recently she told my mum that my great-grandmother knows, but it's unspoken, and she still loves me, but we just don't speak about it. So at this stage all my friends and all that accepted it, and that brought me into December on my 19th. The first 2 weeks of December were great. Partied with friends, and I went out to a bar in Traralgon with my friends every Wednesday night. There was karaoke night where I met a few people of the gay community, and December was an extremely tough time for me. It was emotionally, physically and mentally draining. I was at Star Bar on a Wednesday night. It was, I can't remember the date. It was a couple of days before Christmas. It was on the Wednesday. I was having a good time. I had a few drinks. We were sitting there dancing with friends, having a good time, and I noticed I had about 5 missed calls off my uncle, who I live with. So I went around the corner and called him back, and he asked where I was. I told him I was at the bar. So at that stage I was in shock and I didn't know what was happening. I then got a friend to take me to my uncle's and auntie's. When I arrived, I was met by a fair amount of police, but from there I was taken to the police station to give a statement and to help find my auntie. At that stage we didn't know where she was. I was there until about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was very emotional. So I went home to get some rest, and then I got a phone call at 8 o'clock in the morning. Saying that a good friend of mine who was very sick had passed away in the hospital at 3 o'clock that night. She was one of the loveliest people, funniest people you'd ever meet, and her life was cut so short. I think she was 20, 21, I can't remember. I was later told by her family that when she had passed, she had a smile on her face, so I knew she was at peace. So at this stage I'd put all my coming out and all that aside, and I was dealing with what had happened with my uncle and my friend's death. We went back to Phillip Island for New Year's, but before we left I asked if I could take my best friend. I wasn't going to go until I told him that I was gay. So I text him, I go, "Are we going to be friends no matter what?" happens? And he replied with, yeah. Why, what's wrong? And I texted him and said, I'm gay. There was no reply for about 5 minutes. And so I decided I'd go and have a shower and cool off. As I was about to hop in the shower, my phone started to ring, and it was him. I sat there for a good 15 seconds wondering if I should answer it. I answered it. Now, life's good. I've got my own group on Facebook, LGBTI Support Gippsland. I'm on the board, I think that's what they call it, of the Gippsland Rainbow Collective that's just launched. I help with the local gay night that's once a month here called Rainbow Room. I help sometimes on community radio on a gay program there called Rainbow Connections. And I'm studying to be a youth worker to help LGBTI youth in country areas. But since then everything's gotten so much better, and I've got my family and friends to thank for that. So yeah, thanks for that. Catches.